We've got AMSCAR Racing coming up, and of course that's the big lead up with Bathurst, our next big telecast. Here's Mike Raymond.
After 2 years of endeavouring to transform Australia's great race into a full-blown FISA farce, the Tooheys 1000 returns to its proper Aussie status on October 1st. Back on track is the theme for this year's event, and there are tens of thousands of motor racing fans who say the mountain marathon should never have made the FISA World Series detour in the first place. Being an international sanctioned event, Bathurst retains FISA endorsement, but the 1000 will be controlled by Australians. The rolling start has been scrapped and the universally popular standing start returns. And so too does the top 10 pole shootout to enhance the Saturday schedule.
I think you learn by your mistakes, and it's what people really want, that it's an entertainment business. Got some pretty bright people out there and they've done some quite good canvassing, and it's a case of catering for the people's needs. It's a professional thing and they've put it together. I think the package this year will probably be the best package we've seen in a long time.
Looks like this year's race might be politics free too.
It'd be very nice to have one like that. It really would make a change. We wouldn't know what to do with ourselves in the lunch hour.
I think it should be good this year, because last year we were very busy changing our black number plates over to white and all the important things, and I think the frogs had to go and rub some of the advertising off on the windows, so, you know, we're really busy with important things. But this year I think it'll be the Dinky Die Aussie race, yeah.
No FISA involvement this year directly, even though we're a full international event which is run under the FISA rules, doing things ourselves.
Does that make life a little easier for you as the organiser?
Yes, much easier. Yes, it means we can pull the strings ourselves.
The October 1 marathon run won't be short on international stars. British champion Andy Rouse will partner Peter Brock. Clouds Needsvits is back to join Alan Moffat. Spa 24 Hours winner Win Percy headlines for Holden. British aces Jeff Allam and Rod Gravitt link up with the Dick Johnson team. And ex-Formula One champs Alan Jones and Denny Holm return to the mount this year with the three-car Benson and Hedges team. Defending Bathurst king Tony Longhurst may not have enjoyed the most successful run since conquering the mount last year, but he's on pole here today and believes most of his problems are behind him.
I think our problems this year have been self-inflicted. We just haven't had the car right, and we've been finishing, 20 seconds behind, 15 seconds behind, 30 seconds behind, which is just a couple of tenths each lap. And the reason we've been down here this week testing is to try to get the car right, and we've found that time, and I'm hoping to get back and race against Dick and Peter, and we should be right on the pace from now on.
From a driver's perspective in Australia, is there anything to equal that winning feeling at Bathurst?
No, not really. I'd be quite happy to never win a touring car championship and win a few more Bathursts.
Mount Panorama patrons can expect a new look Bathurst this year. Grandstand seating has been increased, new spectator areas opened up, and the corporate sector has never had it so good, with VIP suites along the top of Panorama and along Mountain Straight. Advance ticket sales for the great race are available through the Ticket Tech and Bass agencies, while Harvey World Travel has interstate tour packages from every corner of Australia. Whatever you do, don't miss the world's greatest touring car race, the Tooheys 1000 at Mount Panorama Bathurst on Sunday, October 1st. And can't wait for it. Tooheys 1000, you'll be able to see that live on 7 on Sunday, October 1st, right across Australia. And of course, a telecast going out to Europe and through the UK and North America. In the meantime, we have the cars lining up now for the Australian Production Car Championship, round number 7, penultimate championship race here today at Sydney's Amaroo Park Raceway. And it's almost welcome back to Toyota land.
Yeah, and they've got all the top spots on the grid again. The Toyota Supra is here. Slightly different cars, though, to the one we saw Brian Thompson drive to victory in the sports sedan race. It's certainly under the bonnet a different car. but the competition is just as fierce in this category. In fact, with 2 rounds to go, there is just 1 point separating Peter Fitzgerald and Mark Gibbs for the Australian Production Car Championship. Ken Douglas not all that far astern of them, followed by John Burke on the point score, and then Mike Preston. Preston, yes, there he is. He's on the grid. I didn't see him earlier. So it's a strong field, and the racing has been close all season. And as we get round towards the end of the series, with just this and the next rounds to go, the points position is so tight, the fireworks could really cut loose here this afternoon at Amaroo Park.
And of course, not only the Australian Production Car Championship round at stake here today, but also the Stallion Stables 2WS Production Car Series for Amaroo Park. Good field. John Burke on pole from Peter Fitzgerald, Kenny Douglas, Mike Preston, Mark Gibbs, Andrew Harris in the Mazda, Roland Hill, one to watch in the Commodore. They had a warm-up race this morning, and was very impressed with Roland Hill. Got out of the starts very quickly. We're about 5 seconds away from the start. Round 7 of the National Production Car Championship. They're off and racing. Fitzy wins the jump. Burke a little slow to start, and then moving up very quickly on the outside is Michael Preston. But Burke may have won the start to the top of Bitchapave Hill. Good field, stream over the top of Bitchapave and head down to Dunlop Loop. Now Burke needs to get across. Oh, some slipping and sliding going on there, and Fitzgerald, in fact, has gone back about 3 spots on the queue. Burke will have a little of the pressure off his shoulders at this stage as he moves down the towards Sutton's Corner. Ken Douglas from Victoria runs in 2nd spot at the moment. The track's still very, very greasy. Been a lot of oil dropped on it here today at Amaroo Park.
Mark Gibbs in 3rd spot, then series leader Fitzgerald right behind him.
Well, we've got all the makings here of a great scrap between Mark Gibbs in car number 8 and Peter Fitzgerald in the Yokohama entry.
1 point the difference between them in the national title.
They'd love to trade a bit of paint, these two.
Fitzgerald is the leader in the 2WS Stallion Stable Series.
I don't know if they love to trade paint. It just seems that they always do.
Here comes Preston too.
Yes, Gibbs got a bit sideways coming out of that corner, and that was just the break that Peter Fitzgerald needed. Now he's trying to gather everything back up again, slipping and sliding everywhere as he goes through there. It's Peter Fitzgerald. Gibbs is the next one, followed by Michael Preston. And while all this is going on, out front John Burke in the Toyo Tyres entry is doing quite nicely, thank you.
Last 2 meetings, Burke really has found something in his car. There he is heading into the lake turn.
Well, John was always a regular campaigner here in the early days of production car racing. He wasn't really a winner, but he was always in the top 3, and it's just great to see him enjoying a purple patch this season. There's the gap that he holds over Victorian Ken Douglas as they head up Bitchapave Hill yet again.
John Burke is in 2nd spot in the local Stallion Stables 2WS Series. So if he could take the checkered flag here and Fitzgerald get muscled back a few places, he might just squeak the title.
He may. At this stage, Douglas runs 2nd. I think Fitzgerald has picked up a spot on the way through, up to 3rd. Kenny Douglas moving probably about a couple of seconds in arrears to John Burke, but he's going to have plenty to keep his mind on the job at the moment, because Peter Fitzgerald is making a lunge right at the tail, looking to get past him and get on with Burke at this stage of the race. Mark Gibbs still in 4th place. Boy, haven't these Toyota Supras opened up the production car class. Went through periods of the Mazdas, and then of course the Commodores came into it. And there hasn't really been a car to run with the Supras since the early part of the season. The unfortunate thing is we've missed Gary Walden, who was really doing big things for Mazda.
Mazda miss him too.
Yeah, found the racing very, very expensive. So after just missing the start marginally to Burke, Fitzgerald's had to do this one the hard way. Went back to 4th on the queue after getting a little touch at Dunlop Loop in the opening lap.
This category of racing has become very expensive the last couple of seasons. Of course, with car import prices the way they are, these vehicles are about $65,000 on the road. That's before you start with any of the gear to make them race worthy under these conditions. So, you know, to run a season, you're talking about $150,000 just to keep body and soul together.
Yeah.
The one good thing about the Toyota Supras is the unbelievable reliability. Once you've paid for and got the car and it's up and running, it will go for the whole season. Some of the other makes have not had quite the same reliability, and therefore they're doubly expensive.
Remains to be seen whether Fitzy can pull in Kenny Douglas at this stage as they head down to the lake corner.
Well, if anybody can, John Fitzgerald, getting my sports mixed up there, Peter Fitzgerald would be the man to do it, but he's got to get past Ken Douglas to make any headway at all on John Burke, and I don't see that happening at the moment, although this is a 15 lapper, so there's still time. Mark Gibbs hasn't been seen in his normal aggressive role today here at Amaroo Park, but then I guess if the machinery's not quite on song on the day, then all the aggression in the world is not going to do you any good. But he's a great talent, and with a competitive car, force to be reckoned with. But unfortunately, as I said today, the others just the front of the pack just seem to have the wood on him. John Burke continues to lead down to the lake corner again, pursued by Ken Douglas. Peter Fitzgerald right on Douglas's back. Then a gap back to Mark Gibbs, about 60 metres, followed by Mike Preston.
15 laps the distance of today's dual round of the National Production Car Championship.
We've covered 6 laps.
And of course the Stallion Stables 2WS Amaroo Park Series. Beautifully turned out Super of John Burke. Everything running very comfortably for him today. Through Suttons and down to Honda Corner. Don't forget, we still have the 2 heats of the AMSCAR Touring Car Series Grand Final day here today, a 10-lapper, and the 20-lapper still to come in our telecast of racing from Amaroo. Let's check out the cars and how they run on the Caltex race score for you. John Burke is race leader over Kenny Douglas. Peter Fitzgerald in 3rd place. Mark Gibbs is 4th. And Michael Preston 5th. All of them in Toyota Supras. And we'll return to Amaroo in just a tick or two. Back at Amaroo Park Raceway, we have 5 laps remaining in the 7th round of the Australian Production Car Championship. Peter Fitzgerald just displacing Kenny Douglas to move to 2nd. And he's really on the haul now after John Burke. So it's been a steady climb back through the field. Got an incident here on our replay. Victorian Ian Thompson in the CRX getting around sideways. Oh! Oof. That Schmartz hit there by the Swift, I think it was. Bad luck for Ian Thompson in the CRX. It's been slightly modified after spinning off there. 1st, 2nd going through your screen, and Peter Fitzgerald closing very rapidly, in fact, on John Burke with 4 laps remaining. So there's still time for Fitzgerald to take the checkered flag here and complete the local series with a victory and to extend his lead over Mark Gibbs in the National Production Car Championship. The only man that's certain of a place here in the top 3, I think, is Kenny Douglas, who's been placed, but he holds such a good break over 4th. He's almost certain for 3rd. The dice are certainly up front with Burke trying to hold back the charging Peter Fitzgerald. As Kenny goes through Suttons and comes downhill to the left-hander at Honda Corner.
Ken Douglas had his big moment for the season, of course, in our coverage of the round at Sandown a couple of months ago, where he took a victory of course, John Burke has really come good with a vengeance towards the end of the season at Oran Park and now here at Amaroo. And Fitzgerald not getting any closer on that last lap. Burke obviously deciding that now's the time to get serious. Laps running out.
Good pressure driver, Fitzy, though. Knows this track well. I've lost count how many years he's been tooling around production cars at Amaroo.
Well, he's a smart campaigner. As you said, he knows that he doesn't have to take the checkered flag here to clinch the series or extend his lead in the national championship.
There's a lot of race around him. Some of the...
if the chance presents itself, he'll take it.
I think he will. Burke comes down to the lake corner again. Fitzgerald closing all the time, as you can see. Laps running out. 2 to go now. Burke just there. Fitzgerald closing all the time as they head up Bitchapave Hill. This will certainly put a bit of pressure on the Toyo Tyres Supra driver, Johnny Burke. On the run down to Sutton's corner now. Got about a lap and a half remaining now as they go through Sutton's and down to Honda corner. Expect Fitzgerald to pick up any ground probably at the lake corner under brakes. Okay, Burke's clear on the run down to the lake now. He's coming up on a couple of slower cars that might run a little bit of interference in this last lap. Along to Toledo corner. Last lap board should be out this time. And here they come, up on some slower cars heading up the hill. Just exactly where Burke strikes these. If they run any interference, dropping down into Lake corner, it could hurt him. No, he's already passed one. At this stage, you'd say that Burke looks pretty set for victory here in round 7 this afternoon.
Flashing the lights.
Now that will affect Fitzgerald. We'll get by the slower driver down to this corner, bouncing all over the road trying to pick it up in the last sprint down to the lake corner.
Will he have a last desperate lunge at John Burke? Under brakes? No, can't make up enough ground.
So along the run now to Toledo corner. Last corner comes up, round 7 of the Australian Production Car Championship and the Stallion Stables 2WS Series. And it will go to John Burke this afternoon over Peter Fitzgerald. And a good drive there from John Burke. Third place will go to Ken Douglas. And they really did open up a fair gap over the rest of the field. So well done, Johnny Burke. Let's check them out on our Caltech CXT race score. Johnny Burke, the winner in the Toyota Supra. Second, Peter Fitzgerald. Another Supra. And third, Victorian, Kenny Douglas.
A long-time campaigner around here, and it pays off in the long run, eh?
Yeah, thanks very much. We had a good run today. We had a good start for a change. Thanks to Mark Gibbs, he told me how to beat Peter Fitzgerald off the line. And it worked, and the car just went magnificent. And I must thank my crew, Steve Griffiths and Greg Nichols and all the other boys for magnificent job. You know, the car just didn't miss a beat. I could see Peter in the background there too. So.
Damon Beck, president of the Australian Racing Drivers Club, to make the presentation to John Burke.
Congratulations, John. Well-deserved victory.
Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank Toyo Tyres, who have been a long campaigner with my car, and Cessnock Toyota and Australian Airlines and all the boys, and thanks very much for Amaroo Park.
Thank you very much to John Burke. Quickly, Peter Fitzgerald, who, although finishing second today, is the winner of the 2WS Stallion Stable Series for Amaroo Park this season, and you've just extended that points lead importantly in the National Championship.
Yes, thank heavens.
What are you puffing for?
Oh, well, it was hard. I was trying to catch John out there, and I got held up a bit early in the race, and he only beat me off the line because I missed second. But congratulations, John, on a fine win, and thanks for Yokohama for their support.
Okay, terrific. Peter Fitzgerald, we'll be seeing him again, of course, later on, and we've got a lot more great racing to come here this afternoon as well. In fact, it's touring car time now. Why don't we join Neil Crompton? It's time for AMSCAR.
It's going to be an interesting confrontation between the Sierras and the Holdens. in this race, Gary. We've seen these guys battling pretty hard throughout the series. Take a look at the way they line up and we'll see that Tony Longhurst has pole position with a time of 51.18, and alongside him old rival Brian Callaghan in the Holden Commodore, a classic Ford versus Holden battle. Position 3, row 2, Mark Gibbs, 52.82, and alongside Mark we have Colin Bond in the Caltex Sierra, a 53.32, had some problems yesterday. Position 5, row 3, Kenny Matthews in the second of the Caltex cars, 53.34. And then another Amaroo expert, and that's the Trevor Ashby, Steve Reed Holden Commodore, 54.64. Position 7, Lyndon Reithmuller in the Commodore. Position 8, the old BMW M3 being driven by Peter Dillman. Position 9, 52, John Cotter, BMW M3, 55.96. And position 10, Brian Callaghan Jr., 56.54 in the second of the Callaghan Holden Commodores.
That is one of the yellow Commodores blowing a lot of smoke. Just pulling up on the starting line, and the officials running down through the pack. Had a drop or two of oil spilled here today at Amaroo Park. The first opportunity to take a look at the tourers on this afternoon's AMSCAR Grand Final telecast from Amaroo. There's Tony Longhurst. Colin Bond in the second row. We spoke to both gentlemen a little earlier. Tony brimming with confidence here today. Colin with a few problems. The Caltex cars splendidly turned out.
10 seconds.
Watch Callaghan off the start. Off and racing, Callaghan gets the jump, does he, initially, and Longhurst picks up the second gear, but Callaghan heads up the hill, and this is almost a repeat of last time when we visited Amaroo Park, and the Holden got away. There's one that's got away, but didn't get away too well, with smoke billowing from behind as they drop down into Dunlop Loop for the first time.
Well, great start from Brian Callaghan. He really got mobile. Tony Longhurst now, though, comes around through the right-hander at Sutton's, and they're side by side, but Longhurst gets through. Callaghan out wide, getting sideways. And the Tooheys 1000 winner of 1988 goes on with the job.
Mark Gibbs up to third. And it looks like Ashby Reed Commodore, the one that's blowing all that smoke back behind the pack. Longhurst comes through the late corner. Callaghan glued to the back of him, and then Gibbs the next one through. Down for the completion.
Ooh, and Callaghan just nailed the fence that time.
Little kiss of the guardrail there. Coming out of that corner, and as they head up the hill again. Looking for Bond to make an impression, but it's really not all going that well today for Colin Bond so far.
No, I think a lot of V8 muscle to get past before he can mount any sort of assault on Tony Longhurst, and it looks pretty unlikely at this moment.
We take our Dulux Auto Colour race cam, of course, from Colin Bond's Caltex Sierra. He's sitting in behind Gibbs as they make the run downhill now. Callaghan one ahead of him, and Longhurst already sprinting as they exit that turn, and he runs on down towards the lake.
The Ashby Reed Dulux Commodore still blowing plenty of smoke, and I thought the last time through Trevor was actually shown a black flag. In fact, he's about to get it again as they come up onto the straight. So it's Longhurst leading. It's Bondy back in the pack slightly.
And then look for the Ashby Reed Commodore. It goes across the line. The black flag hung out yet again. And he goes through as Bond strikes trouble on the way up the hill.
Giving the track a liberal coating of oil.
Got underneath the... Bond's got problems there as he's just a bit off the pace. And there's the smoke billowing out of the Ashby Reed Commodore as we take our picks from Dulux Auto Colour race cam out of Dunlop Loop, and they move down the back straight.
Yeah, that's what you call having smoke blown in your face, isn't it? Back for the leaders now. Tony Longhurst still being pursued relentlessly by Brian Callaghan. Mark Gibbs in behind them. Those three now with a fair gap on the rest of the field.
Here's Callaghan just storming down under brakes. I don't know whether or not he caught Tony Longhurst unaware, but Gibbs moves up right behind Longhurst as well. So Callaghan goes back into the lead in the Commodore, brings some of the Holden supporters to their feet as they go across the strike, and Callaghan leading Tony Longhurst up the hill.
The Gibbs Commodore doesn't seem to have as good a grip on the road as Callaghan's car, does it?
Brian does most of his development here at Amaroo Park.
Notice that the Bob Forbes team welcomes GIO Insurance to their team for the first time this weekend, and they'll carry the backing of GIO for the Tooheys 1000.
Colin Bond returns to the pits. He is really having just a wretched weekend. Needs to make up about 16 points in one day to to even level the AMSCAR Series with Tony Longhurst, and it's all over very early in this race. Bit of time to get it repaired, if they can repair the problem, in time for the 20-lap final. Bit of pressure now on Brian Callaghan as Tony Longhurst zeroes in behind him in the Benson and Hedges Sierra as they go across the line, and Longhurst sitting in the draft as they head up the hill.
Brian Callaghan in third place in the series, and unless Colin Bond can get cranked up and running for the second heat especially, then Callaghan's going to overtake him. Whether or not he could bridge the gap points-wise on Longhurst is another matter.
Tony out wide this time. May look towards the inside as they come down the back straight. If he can just squeeze the Sierra through there on the inside, you only get one little shot at it. This is the corner. Then Callaghan gets back on the pedal again as they run downhill.
It was a great race, and Tony comes back on the inside once again. Mark Gibbs wants a piece of the action as well. And now Longhurst on the outside as they make the run down to the stop right-hander.
Coming off Dulux Straight, heading up now to Toledo Corner. Great scrap.
Gibbs.
Gibbs up now on the inside of Callaghan. And Kenny Matthews getting in amongst them now in the Sierra. He's going to try and make a little dip up here on the inside, but the gate is closed as Gibbs goes through on the inside of Brian Callaghan to the top of the hill.
Half race distance, side by side over the top.
I think Tony would be happy just to be sitting in front of this little scrap that's going on for second.
He'd be glad to have Callaghan off his back.
Gibbs is a fairly enterprising lad.
And he's going to be joined, I understand, Mike, in the long-distance races by Rowan Onslow, who's leading the Gold Star Championship.
The exit corner, let's have a look at the problem that we've picked up here with one of the Holdens, I believe. 99 having a loop. That was Rick Scarf. Harmless little spin. Just out of the late corner, was able to pick it up and rejoin the field. Once again, they come across the line. Heading up Bitchapave Hill yet again. Longhurst.
Hasn't been able to get away from them, Longhurst, and Kenny Matthews is the one that looks like he'd like to go quicker if he could get by the two big thumping Holdens between he and Longhurst.
He's going to have to be a little closer and do exactly what Longhurst did a couple of laps ago. Let's try and squeeze down the inside in this spot. They cover an awful lot of road 2 Commodores. Oh, Callaghan just a toucher. There goes Gibbsy. Now that really has opened the field up for Kenny Matthews, but a little apprehensive there. He just sat to see which way Callaghan was coming back. And Callaghan closes up yet again. Matthews this time dives down on the inside. It's time to get on with it.
Kenny went in there pretty quick, and I didn't think he was going to pull up in time, but he got round okay. And he's been improving all the time in this car throughout the year, and he's just concentrating solely on his motor racing and doing a good job.
It's one of the veterans of the sport, been around for quite a while, Kenny Matthews. Sits in behind Brian Callaghan as they make the run down to Sutton's Corner. Now the downhill sprint to Honda. Callaghan locked up a break last time down through here. Not this time. Mark Gibbs was looking good there for a while. To second. He's back now to fourth. But Longhurst hasn't sprinted away. Fairly close order as they come up to Toledo Corner. We'll put the nose down there just to see if he'd have a little nibble, but that was not the place to be doing it.
I tell you what, Brian doesn't give in too easily either. He's well experienced. Car 53, Peter Dulman.
Stopped on the side of the racetrack. The BMW. Now, he's a pretty aggressive campaigner, Brian. Been around the traps for many years. Started off Speedway. Loved the Tourers. Got involved there. Always fancied a V8. I could never see Brian going the turbo route. Coming down to the late corner, Tony Longhurst just there from Callaghan. Kenny Matthews sits there in third. Mark Gibbs in fourth spot.
Last lap board is going out, so if the order's going to change, it's going to have to happen pretty quickly.
I don't think it will from here. Sierra just screams up Bitchapave Hill. Drops down now into Dunlop Loop. Callaghan, to his credit, just sits right on the bumper there, and Kenny Matthews. No aggressive stuff from Ken. He's going to finish third here. Keep his points tally alive with the 20-lapper coming up shortly. We hope that Colin Bond can get the second of the Caltex cars back on the racetrack for the final this afternoon. Out of Honda, the run down through Dulac Straight now. And it looks like this race will just about lock her up for Tony Longhurst. No Colin Bond out there. That really does take the pressure off. And as they sprint up to Toledo for the final time, it'll be Tony Longhurst in Frank Gardner's magnificently prepared Benson and Hedges Sierra who will lead them across the line. And he takes victory from Callaghan. Third going to Kenny Matthews and fourth to Mark Gibbs. And they really did open up a hell of a lead over the rest of the field. Lyndon Reithmuller being the fourth place driver. Well, there's our race winner of heat number 1 of the AMSCARs. We checked them out for you on our Caltex race score. The Benson and Hedges Sierra of Tony Longhurst, the winner of heat 1. Second going to Brian Callaghan in the Commodore. And third spot to Kenny Matthews in the Caltex Sierra.